Hi, my name is Ms. De Leon, and today we're going to be talking about solving two-step equations. Our objective for today. After today, I will be able to solve and check two-step equations and inequalities using addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And our language objective. After today, I will be able to apply and use reciprocals to solve two-step equations. If you remember from last class, our ultimate goal when solving an equation is to get the variable by itself. And in order to do that, we have to undo what's being done to the variable. If you remember, in order to undo something, we have to do the opposite operation. If we're adding something to our variable, then we want to subtract that something from our variable. If we are subtracting something from our variable, then we want to add something to our variable. If we are multiplying our variable by something, then we want to divide by that something. And same thing, if we are dividing our variable by something, then we want to multiply by that something. Today, we are going to continue doing the same steps we talked about last class. However, we're going to add one more step to it. Example number 1. As I talk through this example, I want you to copy down both the work for solving this equation and also the steps that will appear to the right. So step number 1, still the same. We draw a line. We want to separate our two sides of our equation. Step number 2, I'm either going to add or subtract. So looking at my problem, I'm adding 4 to 3x. The opposite of adding 4 is to subtract 4. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. And when I do that, I have now created what is also called a zero pair. That means that my 4's cancel out. And on my left, I'm simply left with 3x. And to my right, I'm left with 9. Because 13 minus 4 is 9. Step number 3, I'm either going to divide or multiply. Looking at my problem, right now I am multiplying my x by 3. So the opposite of multiplying by 3 is to divide by 3. So I'm going to divide both sides of my equation by 3. And when I do that, I end up with x 1x equals 3 because 3 divided by 3 simplifies down to 1. So on my left I have 1x equals, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. Step number 4 is I want to get my answer. And 1x equals 3 is the exact same thing as saying x equals 3. Remember, a variable written by itself implies that there is an invisible one in front of it. Step number 5 is to check. I want to check and make sure that x equals 3 is indeed my answer. So to check, all I need to do is take my original equation and I'm going to substitute the 3 for the x. Anywhere I see an x, I'm going to put a 3. When I do that, I end up with 3 parentheses 3 close parentheses plus 4 equals 13. Notice how I put parentheses around my 3 when I substituted it in. When I do that calculation, I do indeed end up with 13 equals 13, which is a true statement, which means that my answer x equals 3 is indeed correct. Let's try another example. Example number 2. Now, in this example, we are going to learn a new vocabulary word. So pay close attention for that word. And again, as I give you the problem, as I walk you through how to solve it, I want you to copy down the problem and also the steps to how to solve this problem. Step number 1, you're going to draw a line. Step number 2, we are either going to add or subtract. We are adding 2 to our 3/4 x. The opposite of adding 2 is to subtract 2. So we're going to subtract 2 from both sides. Again, we created a zero pair, which means these two cancel out. And we are simply left with 3/4 x on the left and 6 on the right, because 8 minus 2 is 6. Now step number 3 is to either multiply or divide. Our goal right here is to get a 1 in front of the x, but we have a fraction. We haven't dealt with fractions before, but they're really easy to get rid of. All you have to do is multiply by the reciprocal of that fraction. And the reciprocal is simply the same fraction but flipped. In other words, the reciprocal of 3/4 is just 4/3. So to get rid of this fraction, we're going to multiply by its reciprocal, 4/3, and any fraction multiplied by its reciprocal is going to give you 1. So on the left, we are going to be left with 1x, and on the right, 6 times 4/3 is going to give you 8. Step number 4 is to get our answer. 1x equals 8 is the exact same thing as just saying x equals 8, because again, a variable written by itself implies that there is an invisible one in front of it. Step number 5, we want to check. We want to check and make sure that x equals 8 is the correct answer. To do that, we just take our original equation and we substitute our x for 8, and when we do that, we end up with 3/4 parentheses 8 close parentheses plus 2 equals 8. Doing that calculation, we end up with 8 equals 8, which is a true statement, and which means that our answer, 8 equals 8, is indeed correct. So what I want you to do is I want you to pause this video, and if you haven't already, I want you to finish taking, I want you to finish copying down what's on the slide.